Well, we have completed all of the episodes of Season 1 of Babylon 5, which brings us, rather obviously, to Season 2. I discussed the issues around Michael O'Hare's departure for the review of War Without End Part 1, so I won't rehash that here. Suffice to say, it was a mutually reached decision made with zero animosity, and with such confidence by JMS in O'Hare's willingness to guest star on the show again in the future, that he kept in a scene that could have been easily excised and hedged his bets. So yeah, this wasn't a case of canning O'Hare to bring in a more well-known actor to try to improve the ratings. We first meet Captain Sheridan on his ship, the Agamemnon. Agamemnon, of course, being the general of the Greeks in the Trojan War, a little foreshadowing there. But General Haig calls up to warn about a Minbari warship that's running around, the Trigati. The ship that Delenn mentioned in Legacies had its general commit suicide rather than obey the order to surrender. The Minbari are sending their own ship to deal with it, but it can do a lot of damage if it wanted to first, so Sheridan is going to Babylon 5 since it was last sighted in that general area. And also to take command of B5 while he's there, a little multitasking. It seems that Sheridan was President Santiago's choice of replacement for Sinclair if it were ever to come up, and newly appointed President Clark seems to agree with that. I don't know why they couldn't have just promoted Ivanova, of course.
As far as I'm concerned, the transports can wait until the sun explodes. And if you're not happy with the seating arrangements, I will personally order your seats to be moved outside, down the hall, across the station, and into the fusion reactor.
Ah, I remember why now. She gets a message from Haig as well, informing her of the permanent reassignment of Sinclair to serve as permanent ambassador to the Minbari. Permanently. So he mentions that Sheridan is arriving, and he's not the only VIP showing up. Copland of the Grey Council is here, and is quite annoyed over what Delenn has done. I suppose it's rather embarrassing when diplomatic channels are interrupted by the chief ambassador being in a cocoon. But anyway, Sheridan arrives, and Ivanova, who had previously served with him, rushes down to give her greeting.
To begin with a quick tour of the facilities?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank God, they completely ran out of toilet paper on the transport. He goes off on how exciting it was and is to have access to fresh fruit again after years of being stuck in space, but finally, he gets around to asking how the station is.
Chief of Security is in critical condition in MedLab. He thinks there's a conspiracy concerning the president's death. Ambassador Jakar has mysteriously vanished. After 2 years, we still don't know what Ambassador Kosh looks like inside his encounter suit. And Ambassador Delenn is in a cocoon.
Interesting. Now, do you have any pineapple? Because I love starting the day with pineapple juice. Ivanova would like to know the reasoning of Earth Central in sending him, so Sheridan mentions having experience dealing with the non-aligned worlds and several of the Council races. Although one of those isn't so positive because the Minbari hate him. They even call him Star Killer, possibly because he was trained in secret by Darth Vader. Ivanova fills him in also on how things have been going. The death of the president and then the commander being taken away has left everyone rudderless. It'll be good to have Sheridan there to assure the personnel that there's a firm hand on the wheel. And they're going to need that because this burly Minbari warrior named Kalain has shown up, clearly not up to anything good. In fact, Copland spots him and is horrified at his presence.
We do not harm our own kind, Kalain. We never have.
Well, I don't know about never. It seemed kind of silly to have a warrior cast that didn't start hurting people until they met aliens. This guy's got a bug up his ass over Sheridan being in charge. Even though the Minbari protested, he's still mad at the Grey Council over it. Probably blames them if it rains on his birthday, too. Ivanova swings by MedLab to check on Garibaldi, but he's still in a coma. So many plot threads needing to be resolved, it's going to take a few episodes to get through them all. And that's not even factoring in that they had to add a new leading man. Well, it's time for the big moment for Sheridan. Whenever he shows up within the first 24 hours, he always makes the same speech when he takes command.
When I was 21, I visited Tibet. I went to see the new Dalai Lama. You do that sort of thing when you're 21 and son of a diplomatic envoy.
This is a pretty hardcore origin story.
We had a simple dinner. Rice, raisins, carrots, steamed, not boiled, and green tea.
Yeah, if this ends with you seeing a gazelle, my confidence is going to be shaken. The speech is interrupted by security. Seems Copland is concerned about Kalain doing something after his angry rant, and it looks like he just might, since a guard spots him in the ambassador area.
Hey, wait a minute, this card...
I was gonna say, this card says you can go anywhere as long as you don't punch me anymore. During the meeting, Copland says that Kalain is up to no good, and finally admits that he is from the Trigati. Only, when Sheridan pushes, Copland shoves back.
I would answer your question if I recognized your authority.
Wow. Nice day to you too, dick.
And the day that a man such as yourself is given a position of this importance is a dark day indeed. We lost many of our best warriors because of you.
Remember in yesterday's review, Legacies? The warrior caste marches their most victorious general all over the place and nearly starts a new war with the religious caste over how best to honor the guy? Put Earth's most victorious leader in charge of a station, and the Minbari get so riled up they're wearing Mobius panties by now. As Sheridan explains, defeating the Black Star was their one victory, and the Minbari being upset about it just shows they're a bunch of children if they're outraged at actually losing a battle. It remains perhaps the most stunning example of pettiness that I can recall on their part, to repeatedly demand to be respected for their prowess, while being enraged that when they went to war, some of the dying happened on their side.
It was the only real victory we had in the whole damn war, and I am not about to apologize for it.
Well, Sheridan puts together what Kalain is likely up to, planning to assassinate Delenn, so they get there before Lanier has to break out his Spider-Man martial arts. But during the interrogation, Sheridan wonders aloud why Kalain didn't finish the job. I mean, you'd think a warrior might know a thing or two about how to kill somebody. But he's not giving any useful answers. Not to worry, though, Lanier is full of answers. Lanier was told by Copland that if that happened, he needed to inform Sheridan of the events that he was told. Copland could have done it himself, but as you saw, he despises Sheridan too much to do that. Telling him is like cleaning up after the dog takes a dump. It may be something that needs doing, but that's what underlings are for. So, Lanier is now prepared to answer the great mystery that has simmered throughout the season. What happened at the Battle of the Line? JMS felt, wisely, that you can't string the mysteries along indefinitely. You need to regularly give the audience some answers. If you constantly tease people, they get frustrated. And if you don't bring it up, then they get bored. So, he tells what happened, the Grey Council watching the fight, Delenn admiring human bravery, and wanting to learn more about them. So, she selected Sinclair's ship to be brought aboard, where he was tortured, because we're so enlightened after all, and then scanned with their magic triangle. They determined that Minbari souls were being reincarnated into human bodies, and that was such an unthinkable idea that there was no way they could tell everyone the truth of it so bluntly. At the same time, wiping out humanity when it was full of Minbari souls, especially with their ape must not kill ape rule, needed to be avoided. So the only way to fix the situation was to order a surrender. But they couldn't share the reason because, for some, it'd be too shocking to be believed. And for others, it'd be too stupid a reason to stop. Now we get our first introduction to Warren, who does a really impressive job of making people who fly spaceship fighters and complex dogfights seem really, really boring. And good news, everyone, he'll be a recurring character throughout the season. Lucky you. Right now his job is to scramble because the Trigati has shown up with its gun ports open and it's closing in on B5. And right on cue, Kalain yanks out a tooth, cracks it open to reveal the tasty center, blue mint with just a dash of cyanide. The acting captain calls up demanding Kalain's release and launching fighters to perhaps provide a little bit of bold face and some underlines to that. Sheridan tries to make her realize the futility of this, but she says, all that remains is honor and death. Which I hate to seem like a pessimist, but I don't think that's very promising. Sheridan has an inkling of what's going on, and he correctly guesses that Kalain committed suicide in their brig, all to justify an actual battle. So Sheridan sends out the fighters to engage, but the tracking system is still picking up the Minbari ships. But they shouldn't be able to, unless their stealth shielding tech wasn't being activated. And why would you do that in the middle of a fight? I mean, you don't go running into combat without your cup and then advertise the fact. So Sheridan decides to order his fighters not to engage, on a hunch, and sends out a message. Sure enough, the Trigati ships don't fire, and the message calls in the Minbari ship, one on orders from their government, to come in and handle them. Before we move on, let me tell you the story about a guy named Joel Slater. Now, if you have ever heard of him, and there's no reason that you should, you'll probably agree that this is the only thing worth knowing about him. He was cheesed off about the U.S. bombing of Libya in 1986, and while he was in Australia, he renounced his U.S. citizenship as a political protest. Only thing was, he hadn't finished becoming an Australian citizen yet, so when that fell through, they shipped him back to the U.S., where because he had no social security card, on account of not being a U.S. citizen, he couldn't legally work. And because he had no passport, on account of not being a U.S. citizen, he couldn't legally leave the country, meaning that he amusingly was deported by Mexico to the United States. He found himself with no home, no job, and no country over a political topic that, at most, is a footnote in American history textbooks. Now, I bring that up because Sheridan has realized the Trigati are in the same boat as this guy is. They left on a matter of principle, but now it's been 12 years. There's nothing more that they can do. They're tired of being exiles and continuing to be more and more irrelevant by the day. So the only thing left for them to do was to come here hoping for one big fight, especially since Sheridan was supposed to be here, to die in battle against him. I mean, that was the best end that they could possibly hope for now. When Sheridan doesn't take the bait and they can't fight the Minbari, they try to escape, but they get disabled, so they choose to blow themselves up.
For us, this has been a great sorrow. The crew of the Trigati were heroes to many of our people. Their death will be mourned, and your name will be remembered.
Yep, those Minbari hold a grudge. They blame Sheridan for being nearby when Minbari kill themselves. In private, Sheridan is second-guessing himself, that coming here might have caused this, and the first of many problems with the Minbari due to their history with him. Well, if Lanier is to be believed, his people is going to have to get over that, because the prophecy says that they and the humans will have to unite against the coming darkness. We should all consider ourselves part of the same race, and I think we do. It's just that some of us want to keep tripping up the other runners. Points of Departure gets a stamp of must-see. This introduces us first to John Sheridan and establishes his backstory, which will be significant in dealing with the Minbari because of that history. And the answer to the question is certainly surprising, but is consistent with what we have heard about Minbari beliefs and the few brief glimpses we've had into the events around the Battle of the Line. Is it a satisfying payoff? You know what? I'm going to say yes. Because it is not only not what was expected, but it is so unexpected as to suggest an alien way of thinking, which is something that I approve of in our aliens. They have let us in on a secret that would rattle their civilization to its very core, that it might seem unremarkable, unbelievable, and even nonsensical to us, doesn't change the gravity of what it means to them. As far as Sheridan himself, putting him into a situation to puzzle through by the seat of his pants is a good start for him. And I think that, while this might seem an odd thing to say, that his giving a speech to an empty room to complete a ritual gives us a little insight into his character. He didn't do that for luck. He did it because that's the way it should be done. The same way that a ship might be christened. It's not necessary to do it, but it's symbolism. As we'll see, he's someone who is willing to make a grand gesture in the hopes that that might inspire people enough in order to make a difference.